8 o'clock in the morning and you're taking a standardized test for in high school, which could determine whether you graduate or not. And you're like, well, why do I need to take this test? Part of the reason is because of a law that was passed in 2001 called the No Child Left Behind Act. And basically what this No Child Left Behind Act is that it's a federal educational reform requiring states to make sure that its students that are passing is being proficient in math and reading as measured by standardized test scores in math and reading. So are there any problems with the No Child Left Behind Act? Clearly. Pretty much what the No Child Left Behind Act does is a one-size-fits-all approach to national education reform. In other words, what works for California does not necessarily work for New Jersey and vice versa. So are there any solutions? Yes. Waivers have been proposed. Waivers from certain stringent requirements of the No Child Left Behind Act, which will allow states greater flexibility and so on and so forth. So the question I pose to you today, should states apply for waivers from certain provisions of the No Child Left Behind Act? And I say yes, because what the waivers will allow, it will allow states to set their own individual standards. It will allow states to be free from unreasonable standards and expectations, and it will promote greater flexibility and progress. So what the waivers will allow is it will allow states to set their own individual standards. February 10, 2012, for U.S. Federal News Service of Georgia was approved as such a waiver, and basically what they're allowed to do now is they can relabel their schools as priority focus and reward schools, instead of just generalizing their schools as needs improvement and distinguished schools. What this allows is greater accountability between Georgia, between the state and its schools. It allows the state to focus on its schools, what its schools needs, instead of just generalizing them as needing improvement, which promotes greater accountability. Also, states can set individual standards in that they can set more stronger, diverse curriculums. February 9th of this year, Targeted News Service says that what the No Child Left Behind Act does is that it's led states to narrow their curriculum to focus on the test. Also, February 12th of this year, Star News says that the make or break status of the standardized test makes schools obsessive about making sure that their students are passing these tests in reading and math, which means that other important subjects, such as science and social studies, are kind of being put on secondary status, not as important as math and reading. Which means what? It means that students are receiving a less quality education, which they deserve to get a high quality education in the U.S. today. Also, what the waivers will allow is it will allow states to be free from unreasonable standards and expectations. And one of the No Child Left Behind Act requirements is that 100% of all schools, or of all students, must be proficient in math and reading by 2014. Wow, that is clearly an unreasonable goal. And to show this, November 23, 2011, Connecticut Post states that in 2011, nearly half of the schools statewide failed to meet 90% proficiency in math and reading as required that year for No Child Left Behind Act. Clearly, this is a problem because even in 2011, they're not able to meet that standard. In 2014, how would they be able to meet those standards? And also, all the students, 100% of all students must be proficient, which is clearly almost impossible goal to achieve because there's so many states. Each state has different education needs and requirements. As I stated before, what works in New Jersey does not necessarily work in California, and vice versa. So that's why this is a problem, and the waivers will help remedy that, help fix that. Also, schools can also be free from really stringent requirements, such as stated in February 10th this year, Washington Post, states that states don't face measures such as firing half of their school staff, removing the principal, or shutting down the school altogether as outlined by the No Child Left Behind Act. Clearly, these are unreasonable standards that schools must be put under, because of this law. And what these waivers will allow is allow them to be free from such unreasonable standards. So also what the waivers will do is it will promote greater flexibility and progress. December 14th, last year, Education News said that what these waivers do is it allows a period of 3 years for states to draft up their own teacher reevaluation standards, because under the No Child Left Behind Act, it's like a one-size-fits-all approach to teacher reevaluation, kind of based on standardized tests and how their students are doing. just a problem because teachers should be evaluated on how they're teaching, not just on how their students are doing. So basically, these waivers provide 3 years for states to draft their own standards for teachers, to evaluate the teachers, and the schools have to adopt these. And basically what this means is that schools, they can have a better teacher evaluation standards to promote more excellent quality teachers. Also, states can adopt higher standards to ensure that students are college and career ready. This is one of the main points of why this waiver is important, is because the waivers will allow states to not only focus on just making sure that their students are passing the test, but making sure that they're ready for the future, and that's more important. October 27 last year, Diverse Issue in Higher Ed says to qualify for such waivers, states have to adopt standards such as the Common Core standards as adopted by 44 states in the District of Columbia as of today. And what this allows is that schools can be more focused on making sure that their students are ready for college and career, which is important. And that should be the case. I think Aniston Starr said it the best on why the No Child Left Behind Act is faulty and needs improvement. August 5th of last year, they said, the No Child Left Behind Act, it does not accurately reflect what the schools and students are accomplishing. I agree. This is a problem because the No Child Left Behind Act focuses so much on making sure that the students are passing these tests in math and reading. And yet again, they're not preparing them. They're getting a less curriculum, and they're being exposed to a less stronger curriculum. Hence, the quality of their education goes down, and it's not beneficial for them in the long run. So my question to you today, should states apply for these waivers under certain provisions of the No Child Left Behind Act? And my answer is a clearly yes, because these waivers will allow states to set their own individual standards. It will free them from unreasonable standards and expectations, and it will promote greater flexibility and progress. So, imagine you're that kid again, taking the standardized test during high school. What if your school focused more on making sure that you got a quality education instead of just making sure that you just passed some tests? Right? Thank you.